Hello and welcome to Make It TV. Oh my God, not Make It TV, Meet the Makies. I'm Rea Harbus and I'm the founder of Make It. And I am so excited to be talking to new Makey, Rea Harbus from Amaranth Design.
Hello, everyone.
Who's joining us from Regina.
Where it's raining. It's kind of like Vancouver.
Well, you know what? We're pretty lucky. It's sunny here. So yeah, I know. June's one of those months. It's tricky to know what's gonna happen. And Amaranth Design, I love how you have all the clothes. It's like the perfect backdrop.
I'm in my change room. So this is where all the magic happens when I have clients over. It's like being a kid in a candy store once you come in here. It's fun.
Oh, that's awesome. So Rea, how did you get started?
Right after high school, I studied fashion design. So I did a year in Saskatoon, and then I moved out to Vancouver and studied at Blanche MacDonald Institute, where I got my diploma and certificate in fashion design. So I started sewing when I was really young, so it's always been something I've wanted to do.
And did you always think it would turn into a business?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't really want to work for anyone else. I didn't really have any idea of what being an entrepreneur or a business person was. So I've been in business for 20 years. So it was just it just happened. Just like one thing after another, and people would ask me to make them things and alter their clothes, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
That's often the case. It starts by accident, or someone's like, oh my God, I'd love to buy that, or you get a store. So do you remember, and I mean, congratulations, 20 years. That is an achievement, because I don't know statistically what businesses last. Like, it's like the first year, and then the first 5 years, and the first 10 years, but 20 years, that's amazing. And has it all been with Amaranth Designs, or have you had different businesses along the way?
Nope, it's been Amaranth Designs right from the get-go. When we were in school, we had to come up with a name for our business and kind of a few little things. We didn't really learn much as for how a business works or anything, but I had started with a different company name. But once I opened up my business and registered the name, it's always been Amaranth Designs.
And does the name have any significance, or what's the meaning behind it?
Yeah, the meaning behind the amaranth is you hear more of it now than you did like 20 years ago. The amaranth is a plant. So it can be like a shrub, or it can be a flower. You see them a lot in wedding arrangements. They're the long kind of spindly pieces that hang down from wedding arrangements. They can be pink, green, or white. They can be different things to different people. So some people cook with amaranth. It can be made, like the amaranth flour is really popular for gluten-free baking now too. So it's way more popular than it used to be. And for me, the amaranth, because it can be different to different people, it's kind of like fashion where it evolves year to year. So that's kind of where the name came from.
Nice, that's awesome. And with starting out, so you went to Blanche MacDonald, you did your training, they didn't teach you much about business, which is not surprising. Terrible, they give you all these skills on how to make it, but to actually create a business from it. So how were you able to figure that out?
Trial and error, quite frankly. Yeah, right from the get-go, like being in Saskatchewan, there wasn't any fashion companies here back then. So if there was nowhere to work and learn from other people, you just kind of had to learn trial by fire, honestly, just learning, going as I went. There's a couple of support places in Regina. So the Regina Women's Network was one that was able to kind of connect me with like-minded people. So you could kind of ask questions, bounce ideas off of in terms of the business aspect. And Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan is another branch from the government that has helped a lot too. They do programming and online courses and things in terms of running a business. So if you need help with accounting, if you need a lawyer, those types of things, they can connect you with those types of people too. So that really helped me in terms of my business. I also worked for a long time while I ran my business. So I worked full-time in my business, and I worked for the federal government for almost 12 years. So I picked up a lot of skills working with the government that I can apply to my business. So I worked in HR, I worked in finance, did some accounting, I worked as a learning coordinator too. So all those types of skills that I learned there, I've been able to apply to my business.
That's very interesting. The government, and then you have this full-time, well, side hustle. You can't even really call it a side hustle. That must have been intense trying to do both at the same time.
Yeah, and I was doing that when my kids were little. So I was working 80 hours a week plus raising two babies, and my husband was working full time and finishing his degree in university. So I feel like I have a lot of time on my hands now that I'm doing just the full-time gig, and my kids are older that they can dress themselves now. So they don't need me as much. Some days I find like, what am I going to do with all this time that I have? I'm not working 80 hours a week anymore.
Wow, that's intense. I can't even imagine. And while you're working at the government, did you know that you wanted to do your business full time? Was the government kind of a means to an end, or?
Not really. It was never the plan. I never really wanted to work in my company full time. I like the balance of one part of my brain being super creative and artsy, so to speak, and then the other side of my brain working with numbers and legislation and all that kind of thing, where you can kind of use both parts of my brain. It was a good balance.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that because I think there's a lot of pressure from people. It's like, find your passion, do what you love. And I mean, it's great if you can find that and lean into it, I guess, full time. But I could see that the two probably really help each other out in the sense that you have a lot of skills from the government that you're transferring to your business. So take us back to the early days. I loved hearing the stories of like the first sale or the first experience, because, you know, it's one thing to sew for yourself and for your friends, but do you remember, I mean, it's been 20 years, but do you remember the first time you actually sold something to a stranger?
I actually started in kids wear, which is weird because I don't do any kids wear at all anymore. I make the odd pair of joggers or pajamas for my youngest one. He's an 11-year-old boy, so it's not the same as having a little girl where you can sew for. But that's where I started, was with kids clothes. I did a lot of pieces in fleece because it's cold here 90% of the year. So I was doing two knits, little jackets and little fun things for kids. So I did a couple of craft markets. I did a couple in my hometown, and it kind of spun off from there. And it was just really hard to compete with kids clothes, just as the amount of time and effort you put into the pieces and what you can actually get for it. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went from that doing more into ladies, where I had people asking me, well, can you do this in a lady size, or can you make a poncho or whatever it was? So kind of just spiraled from there.
And from your graduating class, like how many of them do you think started businesses, or are you one of the only ones from Blanche?
I'm the only one left from our graduating class. I think when we started at Blanche, we were probably about 23, 24 girls in the group who were all girls. And when we graduated, I think there was maybe 8 of us that actually completed the course. And there was probably 3 or 4 of us that started businesses. And there was 2 of us until a few years ago. And then the last one, I don't know what happened, fell off the face of the earth, maybe. I don't know, because her website's gone now and her Facebook page hasn't been updated in years, so I don't know what happened to her. But yeah, so I'm the last man standing.
The last woman standing. Wow, that's interesting. So what do you think, because I love talking about mindset, because I feel like so many people who are part of the Make It community, or just artists and makers in general, the ones who are successful, just think differently. So what skill set do you think you had that allowed you to be operating your business 20 years later?
I think it's the same thing that my kindergarten teacher wrote in my report card. It was, does not play well with others, likes to do her own thing, and doesn't listen to anyone. And it's true. I think that's where my success in business has come from, is I don't listen to the negativity. I don't follow the trends. I just listen to my clients and do what they're looking for. And it has brought me great success. I mean, I'm still around 20 years later. And for someone in the fashion industry, that's fairly unheard of. Because even some of the bigger brands, they don't last.
That's so true. Yeah, no, you're so right. I love that. Does not play with others, does not listen. And you know, that could have been looked probably as a negative back when you were in school, but it has served you well. That's interesting. I think the journey is about just listening to yourself and that autonomy to, you know, who you are as a person and not conforming and not trying to be like everyone else, especially in fashion where it's so, so competitive. So Rea, I'd love to see some of your clothing that's hanging behind you. Is there anything you could show us? Give us a little show and tell.
Sure. Like the stuff right behind me here is fall winter.
Okay.
Items that we're kind of working on. Some of them are some great pieces from last year too. And then on the other side, I'll show you some of these ones. These are from our spring summer line that we have. So yeah. So I've got this one here. It looks a little more pink and the lighting in here isn't super great, but it's polka dot. That's one of our best sellers. We do it in different prints every year. So we did polka dot and a couple other prints this year. And eyelet is a big thing this year too. So we found some knit eyelet. Okay. We did it in this beautiful, like dark, rich, royal color, which is really nice. And then we do a few more dressy pieces, but that stuff isn't moving quite yet because everyone's doing Zoom calls from home. So they're in their slippers and then a nice top so that they look put together from the top. But yeah, some of the dresses that we do, which are usually really popular. So this one's a knit. It's got some really great texture to it too. It's kind of a waffle knit almost. And it's one of those ones with our dresses. We do a lot with knits because you can dress yourself. That's kind of our thing is we have a lot of busy moms or ladies who don't have a partner that can zip them into their dress. So these ones don't have a zipper, so you can dress yourself.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's so true. I know, because if there's no one around, like, what do? You get like a clothes hanger and try and
yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting how the fancier, more dressy things just aren't moving. It makes sense. So how have you been able to, I don't know, I guess cope and adapt with everything that's going on? Like it's obviously impacted your business, not being able to come out to Vancouver to do Make It, but how have you just been able to get through it?
Well, we've normally done pieces that go from work to play. So a lot of busy people that are going to wear, you know, to the office, the dress or the sweater and cardigan or whatever it is, and then have something else to do later. So a lot of pieces that you can dress up and down. So we kind of scaled it back a little bit more and introduced some easy wearing pieces, a little more casual pieces. We've designed a couple of jogger styles and some easy wearing things that you can kind of throw into your wardrobe that you, even after this is over, that you can incorporate into your regular life when we get back to it. So we also did a campaign and we started at the end of April. So we did a heart sweater. So we handmade a black or charcoal gray sweater, and then we appliqued a heart on the front of it, with all the proceeds going to children and youth in Regina. So it's a service through the provincial government, and they counsel children with mental health issues. So we were able to donate $2,500 to them, and we actually dropped that off today.
Wow, that's amazing. So
yeah,
you
so
obviously were very proactive. You know, you didn't slow down. You just adapted and pivoted, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it went over better than I could have imagined, because we were wanting to do a 20-year anniversary, kind of a runway show where we could showcase some other entrepreneurs in our city. So partnering with some of my friends that do jewelry or other products and that kind of thing, and do a little runway show where we could showcase some of the designs from some other designers as well, and do a charity component to that where funds would be raised for the same charity of children mental health. But with not being able to do any events, we kind of just had to pivot, and we switched it up to do sweaters for charities. So yeah, we made about 35 sweaters. So yeah.
And was it hard doing all of that? Like, did it take you a little while? Like, did you have some downtime where you just, you know, watch Tiger King and stayed on the couch, or were you able just to like adapt pretty quickly?
I really like to keep busy, so pivoting was really nothing for me, because with my kids I had them set up kind of in my studio where they could do their homework and I could help them out as the need arises, and then I was able to kind of put it out there. I just did a post on social media telling people what I was doing, and people were just like, yeah, I want a sweater, I'll give you the money. And whatever, we were selling them for $100, and then all 100% of the proceeds were going to the charity. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I guess you're used to working 80 hours a week, so this is probably easy. That's an amazing attitude to have. And Rea, do you have a bit of a team now? Like, you must. I mean, for one person to do all that sewing, like,
I actually do most of it myself. I'm a bit of a control freak. Quality control and the whole bit is really important to me, and consistency with quality. And my customers have really grown to know that when they get something from me, it's going to be a quality item that lasts a long time. We did partner with a manufacturer last year in Vancouver. So when we do a collection and we're doing more pieces of the same design, they do the manufacturing for us. And I do have a local lady here that does a little bit of sewing for me. And she does all my pattern grading, because we have a saying between the two of us. She actually lives on the same street as I do, so it's easy. My kids go back and forth, taking things back and forth to her, is that when I do pattern grading, I need therapy, and for her, pattern grading is her therapy. So we have a perfect arrangement. She does the parts I can't stand doing, and vice versa. So she does her own sewing company as well. So sometimes I end up doing things for her. So it works really great.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. That's awesome. And just, send your kids out back and forth. That's perfect. And is that the only person you have helping you out?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. So I imagine you're probably super organized.
Yeah, definitely. I think just being in business this long, you've kind of almost programmed in what works, and kind of a system as sorts of how to do everything. Like for me, every Monday morning as I go through my emails, I update my books. Once a week, I do my own books, my accounting. And then like on Tuesdays, I reply to emails. Like I kind of have it down to a system. And then with social media, I'm not one that likes to use any programs to auto post. I'm kind of go by feel, by how people are reacting to the posts, or if I'm working on something and I want to share. It's just kind of more spur of the moment than anything.
And over the last 20 years, like, things have evolved and changed. Because I know with Make It, it'll be year 12 for us. And even in that span, when we first started, like, there's probably Facebook, but Instagram didn't exist. And just marketing as a whole has evolved so much. And from 20 years ago, I mean, obviously you could have a website, but e-commerce was such a arduous, big process. It's not like you could just, flip out an Etsy store in a matter of minutes. So what are some of the biggest changes you've noticed throughout this 2 decades that you've been running your business?
Well, advertising when we first started in business was either get a billboard, which was super expensive, advertise on the radio, on TV, and then get an ad in the yellow pages in the phone book. Those were kind of the things where you had to put your money, and it was expensive even back then. Like to get an ad in the yellow pages, like a little quarter page was like $600 or $700, and like 20 years ago that was an enormous amount of money. And now you can do a Facebook ad for $5 and get way more response from it than you would a yellow page ad.
Totally. I know, yellow pages, whatever happened. I mean, it would just be so weird to see one. Like, what a waste of paper and resources. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Like, now there's the ability to essentially advertise for free, but it's also hyper competitive. So what do you think it is about your brand that has allowed you to, I guess, just stay in business and have those customers keep on coming back? Like, are you constantly reinventing the wheel, or what's your process for keeping relevant?
Definitely not reinventing the wheel. We have a few styles that we've been doing year after year, because they're just, you change the print, you change, the sleeve, or add a pocket, take pocket away, whatever. And if it works, why do something different? But we do add in definitely new styles every year, but consistency. So you're always going to get the same kind of fit. It's going to be high quality fabrics. The people that are buying it know that it's handmade, that's going to last a long time. And it's classic design for us too. So something that, you are going to spend a bit more money to get one of our pieces, but you pull it out of the closet now, or you pull it out of the closet 5 years from now, and you're still going to feel amazing in it, and you're still going to be able to wear it. So that's kind of something that's been really a value add, I guess, for us, is that when someone does spend that extra bit of money, they know that it's not fast fashion, that the person that made it is being paid, is valued, and that we value our customers too, that it's really important that they're getting a high quality garment, because if it's something that I would want to wear, I want everyone to feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved what you said. And I feel like fast fashion was something that, you know, when it first came out, like maybe 10 years ago or longer, like when H&M and all that, it was very exciting and people loved it. But now I know True Cost is an incredible documentary that really goes behind the scenes to show really the true cost of what some of these harmful consumer patterns, where they lead. And I love what you said about like that customer loyalty, because they know when they come to your booth or do a curbside pickup or anything you do. So how do you retain that customer loyalty? Like, are you sending out newsletters, or how do you keep in touch with your customers?
Honestly, a lot of it is through social media. And I find like the two platforms that we use is Facebook and Instagram. And I find I have different people on each of the platforms. So the way that we communicate with people through Facebook is a little more business-like, a little more straightforward. It's like, here's the piece, here's how much it costs, this is the size we have, here's the link to make the purchase. Or Instagram, you can post joke, you can post more behind the scenes stuff, you can do more like live little videos and that kind of thing. I can have a little bit more fun with Instagram. And I find like if I was to switch those around and post the opposite, like if I posted a joke on Facebook, it would fall flat. So I guess you just have to know your audience and kind of tailor it to what people are kind of looking for.
That's a good point. They're very, very different platforms. And I think it can be tempting to like post and have it go to both. But yeah, you have to be aware. And are you super clear in who the Amaranth woman is and who your customer is? Like, can you be at a show and be like, oh yeah, that's my lady over there, she's definitely gonna buy? Like, is it become second nature?
Sometimes, yeah, but sometimes they do surprise me. Like I was at a show, for example, in Red Deer in the fall last year, and there was one lady that came around and she was looking and I was helping her out, and I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, she said she's gonna come back, but she's not gonna come back. I just don't, I don't see her wearing my sweater. It would look great on her, and I know she'll wear it a lot, but I don't think she's gonna come back. And I was wrong. She did come back. And she came back like 2 days later because it was a 3-day show, and she came with a friend and she's like, this is where I got that sweater and I wore it and I just love it. You need to look at her stuff. So I do get surprised sometimes, but I can kind of tell what people are, what I think might look good on them. And I had some great advice from a friend of mine about a year ago, and it was kind of an aha moment. She's like, you know what people should wear. Don't be too timid. Just offer that outfit to them and show them what you think they could wear. Because I find that before I was a little bit more like, okay, I'll let you look and you pick what you think you'd like. She's like, you know what you're doing. You tell them what they should be wearing and then let them decide whether they want to make that purchase. And it was kind of an aha moment for me of, yeah, maybe I don't want to be aggressive, but I'm there to provide styling tips, I guess, or to be that stylist in that moment too.
That's a really, really interesting idea. I think a lot of makers and artists are timid to take that step forward and to lead the conversation. But at the end of the day, if someone's like, oh my God, this is gonna look awesome on you, I know I bought many, many things just with that being said, because it's like, oh, really? Because, you know, choices are hard. And especially when you're at a craft fair or, you know, an event when there's like at Make It Vancouver, we have over 250 booths. So people are so overwhelmed. Or even when you're shopping online, there's just so many choices out there. So I think that's actually a really good advice, to take that step forward of like, you know what would look awesome on you? And what about Ria, like what about selling in general? Because I know, again, so many artists and makers, it's a huge, huge struggle and they hate it and they love to make their product, but they hate selling it. So you just strike me. I mean, I just met you today, but you strike me as someone who's probably pretty savvy at the selling. I mean, obviously, if you've been in business for 20 years. So what are some tips or advice that you would give?
Well, it was definitely not easy. I'm an introvert for like hands down. So selling my own things, it took a good push from some friends of mine. They're like, I was like, well, can you guys just do my show for me? They're like, no, you need to sell your own stuff because you know the inside and out of all this, the product. So you need to be telling the people of, you know, all the features and what it's made of and, you know, what that person might look good in. So it's just a matter of getting almost outside your comfort zone. And for me, I find I'm a little bit more quiet when I watch people and I kind of read them, and I can really tell, like, if someone tries something on, they come out of the change room and they're just like beaming. They're like, hey, that outfit needs to go home with you. But if they come out and they look in the mirror and they're like, I'm like, hey, take it off, try something else on. Or maybe it's just not the right thing for you. So really making sure that when people buy something that they absolutely love it, because that's going to be their go-to when they pick it out of their closet. It's going to be their favorite, or they're going to talk about it. And that's going to be your best advertising, is when someone loves the piece that they got from you and they tell all their friends of how awesome the experience was with this company and that they absolutely love the piece, and even the process of how, like, you got to tell your story when you're at the markets too, so people really understand. Especially with my stuff, it's expensive. No bones about it. Like, you buy $165, $185 sweater. Well, why would I want to pay $165 for a sweater? Well, if you know it was handmade, it was sourced in Canada, we make sure that we pre-wash the fabric, that we've tested it, that it's not going to shrink, it's not going to pill, that it's going to be a style that you're going to love, that's going to fit really well, not going to fall apart, all those things. At that point, paying $165 for that sweater, like, I'm sold.
And the saying, I love the saying, like, cheap can be expensive and expensive can be cheap. It's all about the price per wear. And if they're going to have one of your $165 sweaters and it's going to last them 10 years, the price per wear is going to be way, way less than if they buy something from Zara or H&M that falls apart like in a matter of a month or so. And I think, again, people are starting to really wake up to that idea, and they're valuing like having less but having better stuff. So for you, like what do clothing, like what does it all represent? You know, like, because I know a lot of times it's not about like the products, it's about, you know, the service you're offering. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, the one thing that we kind of say repeatedly is that we make getting dressed the easiest part of your day. So that's really what we want. Everyone's busy. Nobody has time to mess around trying to find the right thing. These pants don't fit right, or the sweater feels weird. We just want you to grab, put it on, and feel amazing. And just to be able to easily wash and wear, repeat, that kind of thing, be able to wear it different ways, just making your life a little bit easier, and starting your day off in an outfit that you love and that you feel confident in. Because have you ever gotten dressed in the morning, gone somewhere, and you feel horrible, and it's because the sweater's too tight or doesn't feel right or whatever? It kind of sets the tone for your day. So if you can leave the house feeling amazing in what you're wearing, if you look good, you feel good.
It is so true. It is so true. And it's not even always about like how you look in the mirror, it's just how you feel inside. And if something is your style, because I know I've bought things sometimes shopping with my mom and she's like, oh, you should buy that, it looks great on you. I'm like, I don't know. And then you wear it, if it doesn't feel like you, it's like you're misrepresenting yourself, and that affects how you walk, how you talk, how you interact with the world. So I could see the transformation in your clothing, and also like making getting ready easy, because it's like when you think about someone like Steve Jobs, like how he had his uniform, his turtleneck and his jeans, and you kind of think like it's a bit weird and maybe it's too much, but at the same time, like taking that guesswork out and actually building a wardrobe instead of just buying random pieces because they're cheap or, you know, on sale or whatever. So I really like that. And where do you see this going? Like, is there going to be like another 20 years of Amaranth Design, or like, are you slowing down anytime soon, or are you just going to keep building and growing?
Honestly, we never really wanted to grow to a point where we have to outsource everything. I'm really hands-on, so kind of where we are right now is where I want to be. Like sell some stuff online, do some shows, do some private shopping. We do shopping parties. Just kind of where we are is kind of where I want to be. Just to continue and to have like the repeat customers, and obviously have new customers that'll get to know us as well is definitely a goal. But to be like a big, huge brand that's in like hundreds of stores is not really something that we're looking for. We still want to be kind of that little boutique. I guess you'd consider us more of like a little boutique, where we do have some stuff in a few stores, and the stores that we've picked are smaller boutiques, locally owned, that really have that really great customer service. They have that relationship with their clients too, and that's really what we do too. Like, a lot of my customers that have been coming here for years, I know their kids, their kids. I know where they work and what they're up to, where they've gone for holidays. And it's just building that relationship. And that's where I think keeping it a little bit of a smaller company has allowed me to keep it that way, to really get to know people.
Yeah, it's knowing what you want and not feeling the pressure of scaling and 10xing your business. And I think now, especially with tech companies, it's like, oh yeah, like what's the scalability, like what's the growth rate? And I love the idea of a lifestyle business, because you're putting your life first, not your business first. So Rea, like what is your definition of success?
I think it can be different for everybody. Like, some people, like you said, do want to scale and want to be that $1 million company, or, have X employees and be in X amount of stores and that kind of thing. Success, I guess, is whatever you want it to be. Like, I would consider myself successful. Other people that look at my company probably say, she's not very successful. She's not all over Canada. She's not this or she's not that. But their opinion honestly doesn't matter to me. So I guess everybody has their own view of what success is. And to me, success is being happy with what you do. Getting up in the morning and looking forward to turning on the computer, or if that's what you do, or for me, getting down to the studio in front of my table or in front of my sewing machines and turning the lights on and getting going to the creativity flow, that kind of thing. So that's what success is to me.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, it's being happy with what you're doing, and only you can define that for yourself. And I feel like there's sometimes a lot of outward pressure of like, people with the best intention, but like, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And it's like, yeah, you can get so caught up in those ideas, but at the end of the day, it has to make you happy. So I would love to know, I mean, going back 20 years, like what are some of the biggest pieces of advice like you would love to share with little Rea when she was starting out and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, straight from Blanche MacDonald? Like, what are some of the things that would have helped so much that you've now learned?
Oh gosh, that's a very big question.
Well, especially 20 years. Like, if you started your business last year or 2 years ago, it's a lot easier. But yeah, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, I think one things that I learned kind of early on was to get advice from people, but not to always take that advice. Is to really mull it over, because sometimes it might be great advice, but it won't be great advice for me. But it might be great advice for someone else. Is to sometimes take it with a grain of salt. Some advice could be great advice that you can kind of take on. Like, for example, I was part of the Regina Chamber of Commerce when I first started my business, and I was in a mentorship program with them, and they kicked me out of the program because I was working full-time on my business, but I was also working full-time. So they told me that I wasn't taking my business seriously enough, and to please not come back. And years later, I'm still in business, and how many other businesses that were in that program with me are still around. So yeah.
That's so, yeah, that's awesome. I know. And they're probably looking at you now and being like, I guess we were wrong.
But that kind of advice that I got, it could have totally deflated me, and I could have shut my business and said, I guess I shouldn't be doing this. But I kind of ignored that and went on my merry way and said, okay, well, if you're not going to help me, I guess I'll just help myself.
And it's like your kindergarten teacher saying you don't listen to people. That served you well in that situation too. And what made you apply to make it in the first place? Like, what was it about the market that you said, yeah, I want to do that?
I was just looking for different markets where I could meet new people and try different things. Like, I've never done a show in Edmonton. I just dabbled in Alberta last year and did one show. So I was looking to kind of expand that way and get to meet different people. So I was kind of just start dabbling around. I'm looking for a couple shows in Manitoba. I haven't found anything that is the right fit. And I found with the show that you have with the vendors and stuff, I thought it would be a good mix, and it would be my type of clientele that would be walking through that might want some of my stuff or even have a great conversation with.
You know what, you're going to fit right in. I totally can see it. Now we just have to hope that this pandemic clears up so we can have shows again. But I have so enjoyed talking to you, Rea, and getting to know your story better. It's incredible. There's not too many Makies who've gotten to that 20-year mark. So it's very impressive. And, you know, as a fellow female entrepreneur, like, I bow down, because that's the statistically, you're probably less than 1%. I mean, who knows, but it's very, very small. So you're obviously doing something very, very right.
We hope so anyways.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Rea. And thank you everyone who's watching this episode of Meet the Makies. And how can they find you, Rea? What's the best way for them to check out your clothes?
Well, they can always head over to our website, which is www.amaranthdesigns.ca. And Facebook, it's just Amaranth Designs. And on Instagram, it's my name, so Rea Harbus. Even if you hit in Amaranth Designs, it comes up too. So either or.
And we'll have all the links too. So awesome. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining. Thanks so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this episode of Meet the Makies, make sure you join us again, subscribe and like this, and we'll see you sometime soon at the next Make It show. Bye, everyone.
Bye.